a long-time resident of Burnaby, and she's very accomplished, as you can see, and we're very fortunate that she's going to do this demonstration. So she's also been featured in Art Avenue magazine.
That's why I love to do these demos, because I think it inspires us to continue to try to find our own voices and to continue to perfect our painting techniques. So today I hope to show you a little bit of painting technique in acrylic. I usually work in oil, sometimes in watercolor outdoors, but acrylic is really nice to demo with. It dries fast, and I can hopefully build up a painting today. I'm going to go big for you guys today. This is the first time I'm doing a big painting. I do enjoy painting quickly, but the part about being purposeful in your work is what I find the most difficult to find as you journey through your painting technique. That's what I have been still trying to really hone in on. What am I doing with the brush, and what am I trying to accomplish in the paint? So there's not one way to paint. I'm just going to show you how I like to paint, and we'll just see what happens. Okay. So think about how. So when it comes down to, this is just a quick line sketch of what I just sort of did from my painting. This is still wet, by the way. I was at Galliano last week for a week by the ocean, so I hope that experience is what I'll be able to express today. So cut in, that's called cutting in. Sarah again showed this to us a lot at Hollyhock. We went to this lovely workshop there, probably the last one with her dad, and that's where we really honed in on acrylic technique, and you know, come in with the brush and over things, just make all new shapes. So I can bring back light with the white, and then if I want another color, I don't have to mix that color ahead of time. I know I can now glaze over, and I make it quite transparent with this medium. So I have I love Liquitex golden. I love golden paints and Liquitex Medium and Varnish, because it dries really fast and it's clear. You can also varnish your paintings at the end with it, like a clear. See, I can varnish a dry area. If this was a painting, I can varnish it all. But what I'm doing now is putting a glaze. I'm going to push this. Well, I like that rock, so right now I'm just going to push a bit of this rock back with a bit of this purpley gray color. Okay, and I mix that with the blue, a little bit of red, and a little bit of, that's quite a strong glaze. It's almost pure paint. So I would say that's sort of a wet on dry. A glaze actually is transparent. And as this dries, it could take a couple of hours, you can put another glaze on top, and you can get this really luminous effect with glazes. I'll put a warm glaze now. That was a cool glaze with the purple. This is retarder here. I don't like to put that as a glaze, because if I want to put another glaze, it's still drying. So I like to use a fast drying medium for glazing. And now we're going to put a warm glaze over this rock. Let's use a primary color. This is primary yellow, that's primary blue, phthalo blue, and magenta. These are the three that can mix any colors, just like on your printer. This one should pop forward a bit. It gives it more saturation. I put yellow right on top of an ochre, so right away it pushed that color. I can put a little bit of a warmer yellow. We're heading into sort of sunny things. They can come forward. So that's really strong. So if I don't like that, I can wipe it off. And so here's just an example of carrying through. Here's one brush stroke across a lot of the whole painting, and there's one brush stroke that carried the pigment across and unified that whole shape. So I just wanted to show you some of that technique in acrylic of glazing and unifying, warming things up, and pushing things back. And so we push back with any deeper color. Let me just push back with a blue. So I'm going right underneath the waves there. So it helps to have another painting, and I've just pushed a little bit of that color. Usually actually you don't use the same color foreground and background. Change it up a bit, make it softer in the back, grayer. But this already had purples and stuff, so it already made a different color. So that's glazing. Now let's say you want to go over with straight paint. If I add cobalt blue, it might be thick enough, but when it dries, it's going to be a little transparent. It'll show the other colors through, because these paints do dry and become more transparent, and they'll look darker because the white of the medium holding it up together won't be white anymore, And so that can be frustrating with acrylics as well, something to keep in mind. So I don't often use it too thickly. I like to keep building the layers. And for instance, if I wanted a texture and a real thick application, this could be like just a straight paint out of the tube to add a little bit of warmth. So maybe I'll make this a rock up here all of a sudden. And I always like to think about darks, and my favorite black is just ultramarine blue and umber. So it can have a shift of hues in the dark. I do not use black because it tends to be very charcoal-like. So thankfully I just painted some rocks, so I have this gesture of what they may feel like. And this is basing the ocean scene from a demo I did from another class, but why not? And if I wanted to bring something opaque, I would mix it with white. So let's just do. This is purple with white. It's not enough white. So that's a nice color. And you can test it against things like, will I like to use it in there? And I think, yeah, I might make it a little richer, so more pigment. You can see how it shifts. And I'm squinting to see where I might place this color. It'll support the yellow because it's the complement of yellow. I could put it right beside the yellow, and then my eye will go there quite a bit, so I have to be careful. Is that where I want it? Where's my focal point? It's sort of over here. But I'll transfer this pinky purple up the rocks with little dots. Robert Gent technique, he puts little surprises, color surprises here and there. And I'm varying the shape, a couple little lines, few little dots. And then I'll probably put the purple right close to the yellow here somewhere, just to pop that yellow. You can see it getting there. So hopefully that area has even a little bit more interest, and I guess you could say that's the focal point. Arguably, focal points can have the most contrast and more detail. It's a subject, you put a person there, already they become the focal point. So if I put a bird right here, that's going to be a focal point. So, you know, we tend to look for things that we know in nature, and so that can be something to work through in your composition as well. Things to think about. Any questions? See, I'm cutting in underneath the wave there to build that wave up. And I know from watching the waves that there's a bit of dark right under the cap of the wave, and you could blend it out so that you have a hard edge and a soft edge. See how I did that? I have a dark color, put a line, and that shape is quite strong, so I can soften part of that. Just like in watercolors, you get water and soften it. I just have a moist brush. I didn't even clean it. Did you see I've not yet cleaned my brush? Why? Because I use muted tones anyway. If I want a pure color, I use a new brush. So I bring more brushes than I need. And you can never have too many brushes. And then I work with trying to go quickly through the piece, calculating each shape that I place and the colors at the same time. So I'm doing a lot of thinking. It looks very, expressive and loose, but I'm trying to consider each thing that I'm doing and just processing it quickly. So I'm gonna leave this one. Now it's a little bit. That made it a little bit jarry. I don't actually like what it did to the focal point. I could try to wipe it off. Yeah, if it wipes off, it'll be easier to build on top. And I'll come back with this white. I like that little bit of white. If I warm it up just slightly, yeah, then I can have this little warmer highlight on some of the wave caps. And see how I'm twisting the brush. We can use all aspects of the brush, right? Let's not forget about that. And I have this wave coming in. This is a little bit troublesome here. It's sort of too white, that's all. It's like this. The shape is nondescript. So let's do something about that. If you want to make transparent acrylics opaque in order to cover, you mix them with a little bit of white, which I did in that painting, right? I think that purple was it covered everything underneath because it had white in it. If you want to buy opaque paints, you can. There's Liquitex, a lot of them are opaque right from the tube, and golden, you'd have to order them separately. They have opaque paints as a series. And even each company makes their pigments slightly different. So if you look at the numbers on the tube, they will have numbers of what the pigment is, and then you'll be able to sort of find the same one that you're used to. For instance, alizarin crimson can be all sorts of different things. And this is a hue which I usually don't like to use because it's a mixture of just a bunch of different reds and yellows and whatever. But they make some nice alizarin crimson that you have available right out of the tube, a muted tone right out of the tube. And so it'll say, you know, all the different numbers that it has in it, PR122, PR206, and PG7. Another company will have different numbers for their alizarin crimson. So it will act differently. You can think about those things. And it can be frustrating to where it doesn't shift into the same mixtures that you're used to. Like I like making a purple, and if it's a different hues, then it will not make the purple I'm used to, and then the whole painting can be a little harder to work with. And so I haven't worked with these paints recently, so I hope it goes okay. Sometimes I spray the canvas a little bit, so it'll allow, you don't want it soaking wet like wet on wet. What I'm just doing is that it'll receive the paint instead of being a dry brush. So you can even try it.
Right?
So I didn't add extra gesso
No.
because it's a fairly good quality canvas that supposedly has a couple of coats. A lot of people do. It should be either more smooth with the gesso, which can be helpful, and it can seal the canvas so it doesn't absorb your paint so much, and it actually will keep your paints longer. But I didn't do that because with acrylic, the first layer is already seals fairly quickly, like a plastic coating, and doesn't sink in too much farther. With oils, they get lost in there and they get really dark. You almost always have to gesso oils. So I'm just practicing even now with water. You see, I'm already feeling what it'll be like to put that brush across. I'm not going to do this. How do you get something to look like it's moving? Anybody want to? How would you do skies with clouds moving? Right? You don't outline them. You'd soften some of the edges. So I find is if it's painted expressively in motion, it'll look like it's in motion. And if you paint it considering that you're going to soften some part of that shape, then you can make it look like it's in motion. So what I mean by that is back to shape. I am thinking about the structure of the wave before I paint that shape. I might change it. I might respond differently the next shape that puts beside it. But it is something I'm thinking about before I start. Where is the rock shape? Where is the horizontal shapes? Where is the vertical shapes? And even in a horizontal landscape ocean scene, if you don't put vertical shapes, it will feel like you're moving this way, and yet the waves are supposed to be coming this way, if that's what I'm drawing. So how do you make it look like it's coming towards you? Vertical and smaller to bigger, perspective comes into play, and all those things. It may help to have a picture, but I don't copy very well. I like to express. So it can sometimes be a detriment to me to have something specific in front of me, unless I'm going to paint that specifically, and then I might even grid this canvas and transfer the image and do it properly that way. Because guessing on it, I mean, you can. Some people can draw very well from a photo and render it, and it's good practice too. But this is going to be expressive. I already see a few little dots, so I'm going to I can see I'm going to probably splatter a little bit into this and make it feel like it's moving and has some life. So what do I, which color? Doesn't matter. I could start with the rock, I could start with the ocean. I love blue, so I'm just going to go with the blue. A little underpainting like I did in the last painting with a little bit of pink, just to sort of add a difference to the water and lay that in as a background color. So I'll just put that in here. It's quite strong.